evening and welcome to the first ever Tbfs podcast. I'm Amy and this is Ryan.
Hello.
Together we write under the pen name A.R. Merger and we are on our first series of books, all under the Birt Family Secret name, aka Tbfs. The first book is due to be released later this year.
This first podcast is a little bit about us, what got us into writing and what makes us creative. It's also about several questions some of you have asked us that we feel we can answer. Later on in the series, we'll start talking more in depth about our first book, The Birt Family Secret and the Tale of Two Worlds. So, first off, what got you into writing?
I guess it started for me when I was just short of 5. I was diagnosed with having Tourette's syndrome and ADHD, and the doctor stated I would never be able to read and write properly and solve maths problems. Of course, my mum, being my mum, would sit down with me every night and listen to me read and help me with my writing. I suppose I owe her a lot for that. She always said I can do anything I want if I put my mind to it. Of course, writing for me is an escape. I forget where I am and the issues around me. I can dive into another world, and that kind of helps me. I always wanted to create my own world for people like myself who need an escape. My passion for writing and reading has always been with me, and it's always something I wanted to do. I loved the library growing up, and I would spend a lot of time there, even as a teenager. Writing is natural for me and my greatest passion in life.
So you could say then that reading and writing helped you quite a bit growing up?
Yeah, it did help me a lot. So what was the reason you got into writing?
It's difficult to say, but my love for writing sort of stemmed back from when I was a child, early doors. I always had a thing for English, and then later on, when I went to high school, I won a few competitions. One particular competition was with the fire service, and it was in regard to prank phone calls from a telephone box. And it was kind of a grim tale about a child ringing 999 and a fire service, fire truck coming out. And unfortunately, there was a fire at his parents' house and he lost both his parents. And because he made that prank phone call, he lost his family. And I think it was like Greater Manchester region, and I think out of 1,000 contestants, I think I won, and I got like £100. I think it was a £100 voucher for. I don't remember what voucher it was, but I know I got that, and that's kind of where it stemmed from me. Oh, and it was also because sort of growing up, it was difficult because I was sort of bullied a little bit, and it was an escape. So I used to sometimes hide in a cupboard in my room and listen to classical music and write because it was sort of an escape, and as well as read, obviously.
Well, I already know that, but the listeners won't.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this podcast. Well, the next one for me is obviously, what was your dream as a child and why?
I always wanted to be an author, but failing that, an English teacher or a policewoman were my ultimate jobs and career jobs. What about you?
To be honest with you, my career goals stemmed as a child were I wanted to be the commander of the Starship Enterprise. I wanted to be the commander of the Starship Voyager, even though I was a woman. So yes, I couldn't really do that. I wanted to be a pilot, a race car driver, train driver. There was just so many things I wanted to do, and I couldn't sort of settle on anything. But so I guess in a way it was all the things that, in general, your general boys would like, I guess.
Well, that sounds like you. Ever since I first met you, that's all you want. Your dream was always to be a pilot. So that makes sense. And you're not one to put all your eggs in one basket. So
No, I'm not really. I mean, I love planes. You know what I like when we go to the airport sometimes and I look at the planes and we're sat in the airport lounge and it's like, oh my god, that's a 737. Oh, that's an A330. Oh, that's a 747. Oh, that's an A380. And I do get a little bit excited. I'm not going to lie, because I can tell just by the look of the plane moving down the runway, regardless of airline, what aircraft it is, because, well, I like them. I always have.
Yes, that's true. He's a proper nerd when it comes to planes.
I
He's
am.
not even joking.
I
He can
really am.
he can name any plane in the sky or on the land, current or past.
To be honest, though, I mean, I could never really settle on something I wanted to do until writing. When we started this project a little over 2 years ago, I found like I felt like for the first time in a long time that I'd found something I could really commit to and sink my teeth into, and I think that's been really really good, and I think we've gone from sort of an idea to creating a world, and I think that's just great. It's so great from my perspective.
I know for me, I used to write on breaks in work, and uh, you'd sit there and ask me about writing, and I guess your passion, you could tell you were passionate about writing even then.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw you and I used to walk in on our breaks in the unnamed restaurant that we both used to work in, McDonald's. Obviously, you'd be sat in on the break and in the crew room, and you'd be writing away. And most people would find that bizarre, and they'd sort of like they wouldn't laugh about it, but they'd be like, oh, "What's she doing in there? Why's she got a pad?" And rather than actually asking you, they sort of spoke behind closed hands. And I just walked in one day and was like, "Oh, so what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm a writer," and it was like something clicked within me, and I thought this girl wants something out of life. And to be fair, you've always been that way. You've always pushed. No matter what you've done, you've always pushed and you've always wanted to achieve something. And I think that's a really, really, really good thing. Now, obviously, as authors, we do love reading too. So I'm going to ask this question to you, Emmy, and that's what are some of your favourite reads?
Well, growing up, mine was the famous five and the Secret Garden, Secret Seven, anything to do with Enid Blyton. I think I pretty much read, but the Secret Garden was a classic for me. Goosebumps, I love Goosebumps and R.L. Stein. Harry Potter, and yeah, the Secret Garden again, because that's my all-time favourite book, and to be honest, that's when I kind of fell in love with it, with the whole writing aspect, because I'd go into her world and like read about her when she was in the garden and having adventures and stuff. So yeah, what about yourself?
Mine would probably be R.L. Stein, Goosebumps series, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Chronicles of Narnia, C.S. Lewis, what a guy, Robinson Crusoe. There was loads. I mean, probably my favourite Goosebumps one. I think it came from Beneath the Sink, and there was another one that I remember briefly, and that was to do with a theme park, and that was a really really good book. And he also did ones like multiple choice. Is that the right word? Multiple choice? No, I don't know if it was like multiple endings. So for instance, it says like turn to page 172 if it's yes, or 194 if it's no, and you could basically choose and design your own ending, which I found really fascinating at the time. And it made you read the books a few times over.
Yeah, definitely. I think now, personally, I'm reading Philip Pullman, and he's like the greatest author of our time period. His writing is just phenomenal. He's like the Lord of the Rings, and he's like on that level. He's that good.
Well, I know you were reading Ransom Briggs. I know you were reading some of his books recently, and I know you really rated those.
Yeah.
What drew you to Ransom Briggs as a writer?
To be honest, the front cover. I know that sounds a bit weird, and they say you shouldn't judge a book on the front cover, but I kind of looked at the front cover and thought that it's not a front cover that's out there. And then I turned it round, read the blurb, and thought, wow, it sounds like a really good book. And because I read the books before I actually watched the movie, because the movie doesn't do the books justice at all. And
Yeah,
I just
know
fell in love
a
with
lot
it.
of people have said that. To be fair, that it didn't really do the movie the movie didn't really do the book justice, which is fair enough. I mean, yeah, but a lot of books that transition to films sometimes don't do the books justice. Well, the film doesn't do the book justice, should I say. I don't know if it's budget constraints or if it's because they physically can't fit the amount of detail into the film because of the time frame they've got.
That's true.
So, and speaking, while we're talking about films, and around those things, what films did you like? Growing up, what's your all-time favorite movie?
My all-time favourite movie is The Secret Garden.
Oh, there's a
I love
surprise.
it. I love it, and my mum went to take me to see it when I was about 7, I believe. It was around Christmas time because each year we'd go and see a movie on Boxing Day, and yeah, my mum took me to see it, and like Maggie Smith was in it. So what can I say? What's your favourite movie?
I bet that was an interesting concept. Going to a Christmas movie showing in a hot country, because obviously with you being from Australia, that's it doesn't, to me. I think of this. I think of Christmas as cold. To you, you probably think of it as warm. So
I know which one I'd prefer. The
yeah,
cold
yeah,
weather
yeah,
any day,
definitely.
especially for Christmas.
My favourite film, it's difficult to answer because I've liked quite a few, but probably if I had to pick one, I'd say Home Alone: Lost in New York, and that's basically one, I like Macaulay Culkin. Two, the film was just great. Three, Donald Trump's in it, but that's not the reason why I only realised that recently. Four, it's probably because I actually wore the cassette out. My auntie owned the one and she used to loan us videos, and I actually watched it that many times. I wore the magnet because obviously there's only so many times you can use it and rewind it, and I actually wore the tape out. I watched it that much.
Just want to say thank you to your auntie because she actually read our book before it's actually come out, so she has actually supported us in that respect. So thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you. We really do appreciate it, and also I'd like to say thank you to Sandra. You obviously read the book as well, and you gave us some very good feedback towards it, which helped us do the final edit of the book. And we really, really, really do appreciate everyone who helped us. You've basically given us an opportunity to proofread the book just before it's released, and we do appreciate it. So thank you.
I'll just say one more thing about Donald Trump, whether people like him or not, it's irrelevant. I always remember when he was going for presidency, he always had it in his mind, when I become president, and that's just kind of like it's just an inspiration because he always had it in his head he would become president, and I think you need to base that around life. If you keep saying I might become something, you're never going to become it. I will become. If you put that in front of every sentence, then you will do it. Just
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly say that he's a very positive guy in the sense that he set out to achieve a goal and he achieved it. So while we're on a slight relation to Donald Trump's acting career, well, not really, but who would you say your favourite actor or actress is, and why?
for me, it's Johnny Depp and Maggie Smith without a doubt. Some of the first movies I watched, were with Johnny Depp with Edward Scissorhands, and then you had Maggie Smith with The Secret Garden and Harry Potter and whatever else she was in. I mean, I love them both, and I mean, there's many to choose from, but for me personally, it has to be them two, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. My probably go-to guys would be, well, there's lots, but my go-to guys growing up were Jim Carrey and Robin Williams. My favourite movie genre has always been comedy. I'm drawn to it. I've been drawn to it. I mean, Home Alone was kind of a comedy. All the things I watched, The Simpsons, things like that, were all comedies. So it's something that's always appealed to me. I guess I'm just a natural born funny guy. No, no, that's a joke, by the way. So whilst we're on that kind of subject, what's your favourite TV series?
I mean, for me, I love the Charm series, the original Charm series. I've watched it that many times. I know it word for word, scene by scene. I could probably act the part myself. I know it that much. I think I wore the CDs back in the day. Just while I'm on the subject, I know that Shannon Doherty's got cancer at the minute, stage 4. So I just want to say, thinking about you and to stay strong, because I know you're going through a tough time, according to the papers and what I've read.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's very hard to gauge someone's personal life, but just obviously I copy that sentiment, and I really, really hope that, you know, whatever it is you're going through right now, that you do manage to obviously get through it and power through it, and just the best of luck. I mean, basically, my favourite TV series is it was a series called Chuck, which surprise, surprise, is a comedy. I don't know if anyone's ever watched it, but it's basically about kind of a nerdy guy who...
So someone like you then.
Ooh! yeah, okay, haha. No, it's basically about a nerdy guy who ends up with a supercomputer in his brain, like Amy's brother. So, yeah.
Here's a question for you. What's your favourite cartoon series as a kid?
My favourite series was probably the Powerpuff Girls. Don't laugh, I'm being serious.
Powerpuff Girls.
No,
Okay.
honestly, sugar, spice, everything nice. And they had that really evil character in it, you know, Mojo Jojo, I think his name was. Oh, and Dexter's Laboratory with Pinky in the brain, with the what are we doing today, Brian? The same thing we do every day, Pinky. Try to take over the world. And then obviously The Simpsons, Courage the Cowardly Dog, basically anything on TV because I didn't like to play outside.
That was not bad voices there, to be fair.
What about you? What are your cartoon series? What would you pick?
Oh, that's a hard one for me. I mean, there's that many, right from Scooby-Doo, love Scooby-Doo, the Jetsons, the Flintstones. I'm Australian, so obviously Play School, Johnson and Friends, I'd never missed an episode of that. Mr. Squiggle, the Man from the Moon, my mum would remember that one when she listens to this. Humphrey Bear, loved Humphrey Bear, saw him live. Thomas and Friends, obviously being an Aussie, my ultimate favourite, and I didn't miss a single episode ever, was Blinky Bill.
Alright!
So yeah. What about kids' TV series?
Keenan and Kel, because I love orange soda. Dinosaurs, you know, not the mama. And then there was another one that I can't really say out loud because it's a bit nerdy, but I'll try and cover it up. Power Rangers. You?
Power Rangers. No, there's nothing wrong with Power Rangers. Mine was Round the Twist. I don't know if it was in the UK. It's a New Zealand show, or a Kiwi show as I call it. Obviously Mirror Mirror. Again, it was a Kiwi show, but back then they did loads, which was I love that series. Me, and like Ryan, I like Power Rangers and Goosebumps. The Goosebumps series was fantastic. What is your favourite food and why?
What is my favourite food? Well, Italian is definitely my cuisine of choice. Well, yeah, I mean, it is, but I don't like cheese or mushrooms or anything weird, and I'm probably one of the most fussy people I know. But probably pizza, because when I was a kid, my mum, being the clever person that she is, decided she was going to trick me and said that the cheese on a pizza wasn't cheese. She said, it's not cheese, it's mozzarella. I mean, how could I forget about that? What about you, Chuckles?
Italian all the way. Love spaghetti, and I know my mum has a photo somewhere. I would have been about 3 or 4, and I'm covered in like spaghetti from head to toe, and half of the Pizza Hut's covered in it too. So, yeah.
So nothing's changed, and the only difference is you've grown into a messy adult.
Oh, you cheeky! I'm not that messy. So, what's your favourite music and musician then?
My favourite music has to be... My favourite track is probably Oh Happy Days from Sister Act. I mean, oh happy days, oh happy days.
Really? Come on, be serious.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's probably the second version they did in Sister Act 2. I mean, I absolutely love that.
Come on, be serious.
Fine, I'll be serious. It was probably my favourite group's Above and Beyond, and it's a song that they did under the Ocean Lab guys, and that is a track called On a Good Day.
I like that song too, to be fair. I do like Above and Beyond because I know before I met you, you used to like produce music and stuff, so yeah, I can appreciate that. My favourite group's obviously the Backstreet Boys, and it has to be As Long As You Love Me by them. I mean, I've seen the Backstreet Boys so many times now. Their quality. I know they might be a bit cheesy, but they are my all-time favourite group ever. And obviously, how can I forget Scooter and the Logical song? That's up there as well, obviously.
To be fair, I actually love their album. Not the Backstreet Boys. I've got to point that out now. Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with them.
Just pointing out, I am not a Backstreet Boys fan. Never have been. Never will be. I'm talking about Scooter. I actually got their album, and I actually waited till the midnight release at Asda when I was I must have been about 12 years old. And I think 12, 13 years old, and I think I snuck out and walked the 4 miles to Asda just to be there for the 12 o'clock when it opened and brought the album. And wow, what an album!
Quality album.
So, a question related to our book now, because I'm sure that's what everyone wants to know about. Are you or any of your family religious?
Well, my dad hasn't stepped foot inside a church in years. No disrespect to anyone who's religious. He's just not a religious person. As for my mum, I would say she is religious to a degree. And my brother Aidan is very religious and takes it
religious.
very seriously. He knows the Bible from cover to cover.
Cover to cover.
My grandma is the only practicing Catholic in my family, and I even brought her back some holy water when we visited the Vatican, which was a great experience and something I ticked off my bucket list. She absolutely loved it, of course. What about you?
Yes, I believe your brother does take it very seriously. I mean, he's often seen around churches. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. My family aren't religious, really. I think maybe my auntie is slightly, and a certain other person when it suits them, but naming no names.
But they know who they are, probably. Well, I know who you were talking about. So anyway, moving on swiftly, a question we have been asked is, why are two of the characters in the book called Charles and Camilla?
It was by accident, complete accident, honestly. Yeah, the first character we thought of after Mikey was Victor, obviously his uncle, and then that was followed by his grandfather Charles. Camilla popped into my head naturally. I guess I've been royally conditioned to be a royal lover. Does that make any sense? Royally conditioned to be a royal lover?
Like my mum, then.
I've got to point out I'm not a royal lover. I don't love royals. I mean, I'd probably get arrested. So.
My mum likes the royal family. She well rates them.
Yeah, I sense a lot of people who come to this country for some reason seem to love the royal family. You go anywhere in, say, America, and it's like, oh my God, do you know the royals? Do you have tea with them? And it's like, yeah, because we live in a tiny little island. Sorry, not that I'm saying all Americans are that way inclined, by the way, just a few I've met.
I can appreciate that, though, because the first thing we did when we came to the UK was go to Buckingham Palace.
Oh, so
it
basically
is a huge thing.
You're part of the problem with us British being misunderstood. Okay, got it.
No, I don't know. I mean, my mum, I just put it out there, my mum actually liked Diana, Princess Diana. She went to
cool.
meet her in Melbourne. I say meet her. It was when her and Charles were. I can't remember the exact thing. I think they might have just got married, or they'd had William. I don't know when it was, but she stood in the front of the crowd and got to touch Diana, and I know that was a good moment for her. So yeah.
Wow, that must have been an experience and a half, to be honest with you. I mean, Diana was probably one of the cool ones.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying the others aren't cool. Sort of. So, another question we got asked is, how and where did you come up with the idea for the Birt Family Secret series?
I actually had a character, Mikey Birt, in my head, but I had no idea what to do with him. Of course, Ryan took me to my first Everton football game. Yes, I am a blue. I am a blue girl. through and through. I remember the night clearly. It was Big Sam Allardyce's first game. Just to put it out there, I don't like the way Everton treated him, but hey, and I do think he would have made one of the best England managers ever. But anyway, put that aside. It was the 2nd of December 2017 against Huddersfield. We won 2-0, of course. Great game. Anyway, we stayed overnight in Southport and we're walking along the beach. We're weirdos and we love walking in the dark on the beach. I think we might have had a bottle of wine that we were sharing between us.
I think you're getting that one confused with Blackpool. I don't think we had wine that night. I think it was the KFC.
Oh well, yeah, it might have been
close
awful.
enough. Both bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was speaking to Ryan about Mikey Birt, and before you know it, we were speaking all night about plot lines and ideas, and we just clicked, and we just worked really well together. And from then on, we decided to work together on the book. And Ryan's a Liverpool fan, just to point out, and it is very hard at times being an Everton fan.
Yeah, it must be hard being an Everton fan at times, seeing your team struggle so much.
Oh, we don't struggle.
No. The day I met you, it was like a match made in heaven. It honestly was. And then you told me you were a Blue. That could well divorce us at some point in the future if Everton actually win anything.
Not being funny, but when was the last time you won the league? Because as far as I know, it might have been a year before. You won it a year after us, maybe. So don't get too cocky. And yes, I know you're gonna win the league this year. It's inevitable. But seriously though, Liverpool do deserve it. I mean, they have played incredible this year, and I can't say anything else because, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Who is your favourite character in our book?
How could I forget about you mentioning the you didn't mention what yeah, how could I forget that we won the league the year after you, because we still won something the year after you, which is fine. But in terms of my favourite character in the book, I would have to say it's Victor, because I think that he's very misunderstood and he's very undervalued as a character, and I think that he's had a very difficult upbringing, sort of bringing himself up, and to a degree, it's relatable, and that's just the way it is from my personal perspective. I think Victor is he's stronger and he's much more able than most people think, and I think throughout the series that becomes clear. What about you?
My favourite character has to be Mikey Birt. He moved to another country. Obviously, he moved to America. He was bullied when he went to school in America. He had trouble making friends, and the American kids just didn't accept him. I can obviously relate to that, being an outsider from Australia moving to the UK. I struggled as well to make friends, and yeah, I can relate to him. I think it's a very important character in our book and someone I can't wait to develop and to share with you guys.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if you think about it, Mike is very much like his uncle. He's just had the fortune of a decent childhood. I think as a character he's capable of so much more than the reader can realise, and I think through the series, I think they'll realise that.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Another question we've been asked regarding the book is, who is your chosen publisher and why did you choose them?
See, we've been asked this question a few times now, but the reason we chose the publisher we did is because, well, we had a few offers that came forward and we took a bit of time to consider, and then eventually we accepted an offer from Olympia Publishers. Yep, I know they're getting a lot of stick from people, but I think if you can get past the whole hybrid model everyone seems so afraid of, and you promote your work and work hard, then I think you can make make something of yourself and make a success of it. The truth of the matter is the world's changed. Media and written materials are available online so easily now, so how once the only option you had was to go to a bookstore, now you've got so many other avenues open, and I think that you have to move with the times, and I think if Olympia follow the road that they're going down. Eventually they may well become a great publisher, and I think it's just about giving them a chance as much as them giving us a chance.
So why of all places is Mikey from Croston?
Croston stems back from the fact we were looking for a church for Mikey's father to obviously minister. Minister, is that the right word? He's a father of the church, vicar of the church, whatever you want to call it. So we were looking for a Church of England, and we just happened to find one. I was driving through a town one day on a work. I was driving through for work, and I saw this most picturesque tiny little street, and by the end of it was a church by the name of, I think, St Michael's and All Angels, and there just happened to be a Church of England school in the same village around the corner, which was just like, it was perfect. So that's kind of where Croston came from.
Not giving away too much there, are you?
Well, I'm not giving away too much other than, Mikey's father's vicar of a church. He's from Croston, and he goes to a Church of England school. Obviously, he's got an uncle Victor, but I'm not giving any more than that, because if they want to know more, they can pick up the book and read it.
That's very true. If you could have one power, what would it be and why?
Me personally, I think mine would be to fly, so I don't have to sit in traffic all the time. What about you?
I've never really thought about it, in honesty. I guess if I had to pick one, it'd be to read people's minds, especially yours, because I'd love to know what you're thinking. And my mum, without her actually, although she speaks her mind anyway, so
Yeah,
no offence, mum.
Yeah, but that's the thing about reading minds. Would you really want to do it? Because I think, has anyone, obviously feel free to comment in the comments, but has anyone ever seen the film What Women Want?
Fantastic film, that.
Yeah, it was a good film, but I think sometimes to be so deep in someone's brain, it's almost like you're intruding on them. I mean, if I could read all your thoughts, and I could see what you were thinking, and I could predict something before you did it, I think, I wouldn't react how those women were reacting. I think I'd be very freaked out.
We'd probably be football divorced anyway, in honesty. Because the only comments I keep to myself are regarding Liverpool, because I don't want to offend you or anything.
The only thing you ever talk about is Everton, so there's no surprises
there. Because we're
there.
the only team in Liverpool, that's why. With the best manager in the world, or one of them.
Please, we all know Trammy is the best team in Liverpool. Jokes.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so next one then for you. With you obviously loving writing so much, but if you could choose one career outside of writing, what would it be?
English teacher, I guess. I'd probably go to another country and teach English, because I mean, as a kid I wanted to do that, and it's all connected with writing, so that would probably be my choice. Or failing that, a police officer, because they were my two ultimate choices. Yeah. What about you?
Well, it's related to the dream of flying, so pilot, because I've been obsessed with aircraft, as I said before, for as long as I can remember. So there we go, it's like swings and roundabouts. All you talk about is Everton, and all I talk about is planes.
It's true. But I still love you anyway.
Yeah, it works. we fly away with the Everton comments. see what I did there? Right, so with everything that's going on at the minute, and then the threat of I don't know if it's been confirmed, but the London Book Fair being cancelled, and a few other book events that are being cancelled due to the coronavirus. What do you think about it? Do you think it's being blown out of proportion? I mean, what's your take on it? Do you have an opinion?
I'm not a scientist. I'm certainly no doctor. And in today's society, I think that's the problem. The fact social media reacts so fast to things, you don't know what's right from wrong. For example, the other day I went onto Facebook, and every post I flicked past was related to the coronavirus, but you can guarantee every single story on the coronavirus had a different viewpoint, and they were all negative. I can't say for certain what is right and what is wrong. All I can say is time is precious. We only have one life, so we need to make every day count and focus on the positives in life, not the negatives.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's been, to a degree, it's probably been slightly blown out of proportion, and I think that a common sense approach is needed towards it. You know, listen to the advice that's being thrown out there. Just wash your hands, take precautions. But take the necessary precautions. But just live your life, because if you don't, every little thing that's going to come out. Oh, it might be coronavirus today. It might be meatballitis tomorrow. I mean, I just looked at a picture of meatballs, so it was the first thing that popped into my head, so sorry about that. But to be fair, we actually had a pizza tonight, and I'd just like to say that Franca's Takeaway in Bolton, your pizza was absolutely divine, so thank you so much. It was wonderful. So the next one, and the last one probably before we end this podcast, it's been a bit of a higgledy-piggledy this one because it is our first one, but I'm sure it'll get better with time. And to end it on a high is, what is one piece of advice you could give a new writer?
Don't give up and don't ask for approval, because guess what? You don't need it. I've realised in life the only person who can achieve their dream is you. No one else. You know, so there may be people who doubt you, or family that don't necessarily support you, and they tell you to get a real job, but the only person you need to convince is yourself. If you've got that, then you will make it. Don't seek recognition, because until you are at the point where you are living your dream, no one else matters. Just your own thoughts and your own opinions. You know, live, eat and breathe your dream, and it will become a reality. Because ours has, because our book will be out by the end of the year. So
yeah, I mean, we've got sort of a series of 6 books. We're currently sat in our own office. We've got a great setup here, and then obviously we're doing this podcast. We're doing a lot. We've got the website set up. We've got a lot of things happening on social media. We've got a few giveaways, things like that, that's going to be coming up soon. Some Waterstones vouchers, some merchandise giveaway, things like that. We'll talk about that in the next podcast. That's for a later date. And then obviously, you know, in this world, you get out what you put in. You know, there's quite a few people out there that will tell you that, and I think that one of my personal favourites, one of the personal favourite guys that I listen to on a regular basis, is a guy called Eric Thomas. Now the video's quite old now, but it's How Bad Do You Want It, and it's on YouTube. And it talks about basically wanting success as much as you want to breathe. And it's I think it's a 13.5 minute video, but just his motivational, he shouts a little bit, he's a little bit loud, a little bit brash, but he gets to the point, and he tells you at the end that, you know, until you want success as much as you want to breathe, you'll not be successful. So want success as much as you want to breathe, and I promise you, you'll find success.
one of my favourite quotes is, every journey starts with a little step. Like, just take little steps.
Well, there's a few variants on that, but most one is that every journey starts with a single step. But I think, yeah, you at the end of the day, you could say that, because until someone, same with the rockets on the moon, it all started with someone in an office designing a rocket.
Who had one crazy idea.
Yeah, one crazy idea led to someone landing on the moon, so go world. It's just proof that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. I think that pretty much concludes this podcast. So what I'm going to say is stay safe, and we'll be back soon with another Tbfs podcast. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more info on our book series without still obviously giving too much away. And that pretty much concludes this one. So good night, ladies and gentlemen. This is good night from Ryan, and good night
From Amy.